Twisted Shop for calling in. And sorry, Dustin, that they tricked you.
We ain't sorry that we tricked you.
We're not sorry.
We're not sorry that we tricked you. But, yeah, just like Brew was saying, we do have a very motherfucking special guest on the line. Sorry about that. I'll have to apologize to my language for like 100 times, but, yeah.
We don't know how religious he is.
All the way?
Yeah, all the way? I don't know. I haven't heard any of it.
That's why I said we have a special guest.
A special
guest on the line right now.
Is he a guest?
You guys know him from Lotus. He's been in known by many names, I guess. Many groups.
Been putting in work for a long time.
Long time. But we are live on the air with the very own Marz. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir. What's going on, bro?
What's up, man?
How are you doing?
I'm doing spectacular. How are you doing?
We're doing great, man.
We're doing fantastic.
Welcome to the $1 Billion Baller Replicon Radio Show.
Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, thank you, man. We definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm going to apologize in advance. We sometimes I'm really bad at watching my language, so I'm not sure. Not sure if that offends you or not. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out there.
I do have virgin ears, so.
Virgin ears.
Are they born again?
Just be yourself, bro.
Born again virgin.
Are they born again virgin ears?
They're born again. Yeah, they got 3 virgin eyes.
There you go. That's good.
Those are some tight ass ears right there.
Hey, you watch your language, sir.
Sorry, tight ears. Tight ears.
But yeah,
actually, have you ever seen my ears? They're kind of big.
I'm going to Google right now.
He can hear everything you're saying, so watch out.
I can hear what you're thinking, bro.
Oh, that's not good.
That's like Jedi shit.
Yeah, in like 5 minutes he's gonna be looking up porn.
Yeah, that's a real trouble there. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, man, we definitely appreciate it. We definitely want to get to know. I've seen a little bit. You definitely have a story to tell, so we definitely want to get into it. And kind of what we do here is we just got to go back on the Wayback Machine or whatever, the Replicon time machine, and go back from the beginning. So. I know. I guess you were born in Croatia and ended up in Chicago. Like, tell me where, the story of Marz began.
Yeah. So I was born in a tiny little village, bro. Actually, I was sharing this with somebody today. When I was little, and it would be around dusk at night, so there's hills and little dirt roads. I would have to walk to the neighbor's house, which was about a block and a half away, and get milk. So, have my little tin can, and I'd go there and she'd have fresh milk that she just milked from the cow that day, and then give it to me, and I'd hear the dogs barking in the village, and, just that quaint nature, peaceful, I don't know how you say, village life, like something out of Walt Disney World. And then you move to Chicago, to North Avenue, Pulaski, and it was completely different.
Yeah, that's
2 different worlds.
That's a whole nother world for sure.
Because we didn't have a television, so I never even seen America or what that was like. All I remember hearing is there's big cars. Everybody told me, like, in America, there's giant cars and there's big houses and big buildings, but that was about the...
So you never even seen a car or anything in the village? Like,
there was cars, like the little road we lived on, there would be a car, like, I don't know, man, maybe twice a day, and it would usually be like a truck, because at that time, it was a communist country, so completely different vibe. It wasn't like cars like they do now.
That's crazy. So you're a wide-eyed child, like discovering the world for the first time in the streets of Chicago. I mean,
well, it's like I felt so innocent when I came here. I felt literally like I was plucked out of some Walt Disney, like fairy tale, like running around picking mushrooms, and laughing with butterflies, and then thrown into Chicago and just culture shock. And for a long time, I thought in my mind, childish mind, I always looked at America as temporary, and I was going to go back one day.
Yeah.
So a good section of my life, all through grammar school and even high school, I looked at this as just temporary. But then it trapped me.
Trapped you. The cities will trap you, man.
Yeah.
So you moved to Chicago from Village Live. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's a culture shock. I mean, was it like a rough growing up? I mean, were you guys pretty like what? How did your family come to America? Like, how did you go from feeding the goats to the city of Chicago?
Bro, it's kind of a strange story. My dad's like an old school gangster. My pops was gangster before that became cool in rap music, you know. And he had a foe out there, and they got into a fight, and my pops stabbed the guy.
Oh wow!
And it was just like one day we were there, and the next day we were like, "We're going to America."
No,
and I was
just
like,
out of
"Why?
nowhere.
Like why?" And I found out later. I found out when I was a teenager. I was probably like 16 when I found that out. One of my uncles told me. I went out there to visit, and he was like, "Man, do you know why you guys went to America?" I'm like, "Nah, why do we go?" I thought it was for money, like, you know, come out here to work.
The American dream or whatever, yeah.
The American dream is you run away from a stabbing, go
Yeah.
to America and get a job.
Damn, it's crazy.
Wow. So I mean, I guess that kind of explains. I guess I know as a young child, you kind of got into like gang scenes around there and stuff like that. Is that you think that maybe that was a reflection of that?
Sometimes when I do interviews and I read them back, I'm just like, oh my God, like I was not Scarface in Chicago, you know?
Yeah.
Not Scarface, but Chicago is filled with gangs. It is. It's everywhere, you know? And some of them are real serious and some of them are not. But, you know, from a very early age, I got involved in it and then kind of went away from it for a while because of music and then got pulled back into it a little later in life. And it's one of those things where, you know, there's a lot of levels of gangbanging. There's people that are actively gangbanging. They're on the block right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you pull on the wrong block, they're going to break your car, they're going to rob you and, you know, and do whatever they got to do. And then there's people that's gang members. So they're not really actively engaged in gangbanging anymore. You know, they're just hanging out. They're associated with the scene. And then there's all type of other levels, circles, you know, like bigger and bigger circles of that situation. Hip hop, at least the hip hop I was involved with, it's almost all with gangs, you know. Everybody's affiliated somehow, you know. I got to a point where my gang name was Cash Green. So that was my thing. I wanted power. I wanted money. You know, I wanted fame. So that was really what I chased. And so I could get along with all the gangs. I could get along with Latin Kings. I could get along with Cobras. I could get along with IGs because my view was money.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how the leaders of those gangs are anyway. You know, it's the young dudes that's killing themselves. The older dudes that's kind of running things, they already know.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's where it started. Money and power.
Yeah.
So I mean, how young were you at this time? Like when you guys went to Chicago?
I got in to the first gang. I was probably like 12.
Damn.
Wow,
I was
crazy.
in grammar school.
That's crazy.
You
So
know,
you were
so what we would do, and it wasn't like now. Now it's all about guns and shooting. Like we used to fight.
Yeah.
You know, so where the park where I was, there was Latin Kings and BPAs, and they were what's called people at the time. And then the grammar school I went to was Spanish Cobras. And I was one of the younger guys, so they would get me to go to which the grammar school is like maybe 4 blocks away from the park where we would hang out. And I would go there and instigate all of them to chase me. And they would all chase me back, and my dudes would jump them, and they would jump us. And this was just kind of a recurring thing. I had one summer where I had my teeth knocked out, I believe 3 times. And the 3rd time I went back to that dentist, he was like, what's going on with you? Because I was young.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's been a rough summer, man. And he's like, learn how to duck.
Learn how to duck?
Yeah, but you know, back then, you would get beat up. Like, got beat up like bad, real bad. He got his nuts smashed.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and when he got out of the hospital, I used to carry him around. So I would carry him to the corner store, get us something to drink, and carry him back on my back.
Wow.
You know? Now, it's different. You know, now it's like people are just getting shot up left and right.
Yeah.
You know, now there's still some fist fights, but it's just people are just shooting.
Yeah, everybody's too afraid to get in a fight these days.
Yeah, because most people don't know how to fight. People got guns. I mean, you know, and I struggled for a while because I'm sure we'll get to it, but when my life changed, when I became a believer, you know, I have kids, I have a wife, and we live in a good neighborhood. So where I live right now, I live in a good neighborhood. There's still young kids at the park, but it ain't like we're in the middle of a war right now.
You're not in Green Glade or anything.
Yeah, but still, I struggle with having concealed carry, you know? So I do have it. And when I go out with my family, I do carry. But I pray to God I never, ever have to use it. But the city has that vibe, you know?
Right, St. Louis the same way.
You can grow up in a certain part of the city and never know that. I'll give you an example. The last neighborhood that I lived in before I moved out here with my wife was called Logan Square. Now, Logan Square was getting gentrified, right? So you would have like, what do you call them? Hipsters, right? You got hipsters and the girls doing yoga and people sipping tea in the little breweries. In that same neighborhood, my dudes even crack, bang banging, shooting each other.
Yeah.
And the hipsters might not even know it.
It's literally like day and night, yeah.
Yeah, you know. I remember when I lived in Humboldt Park, and then we got signed, and I moved out to LA. I got signed to and then we moved out. But right before we moved out, I was with my engineer, and there's a street called North Avenue, right? So on North Avenue, and I believe it was Pulaski. It was getting gentrified. So on one side of the street, there's this French restaurant, and there's a line of people in tuxedos and like gowns. The women are wearing gowns, and in the window, it's like silhouettes of women, you know, that would just pose different every like 2 minutes. And on the other side of the street, there's a bunch of dudes selling crack.
Oh, wow.
And like this clash of cultures, you know what I mean? Or clash of demographics.
Yeah.
It was surreal.
Just right across the street from each other.
Literally.
So, I mean, and this is the type of environment, essentially, I mean, you're talking about currently, but same type of environment you were growing up in Chicago as a, you know, a wide-eyed child just discovering the world. I mean, I assume as far as you know at the time, that's what the world was. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, when we came here, the first neighborhood we moved into was Humboldt Park. And then we moved from Humboldt Park to a neighborhood called Black Hawk Park. And then I ended up moving when I moved out from Black Hawk Park back to Humboldt Park. And so in my perspective, it was just normal, right? If you might not gangbang, but you're affiliated.
Yeah.
Right? So when I first brought an engineer back from England, I had did some music in England, and I ended up meeting an engineer, and like his dad was a doctor, and they lived in a cottage, and they had horses, and we came back to Humboldt Park, right? So,
wow.
And it was kind of the first time that I saw it different because I was seeing it through his eyes, because he would be asking me questions like, you know, we'd be on the corner, there's dudes on the corner looking at us, and he's staring back at them. And I'm like, homie, don't look at them. Like, don't. And he's like, why not? Why can't I look at them? Like, it's a free country. I'm like, bro, you don't even know what's about to happen. And he almost got his jumped a couple times for doing that. Because he didn't know, you know? And he's like, why is that? Why is the game? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It just is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way it is. I'm not quite sure. You know, at least I wasn't sure about it.
Wow. Yeah, so that's definitely a crazy time for sure. Definitely not the best place for a child to grow up.
Nah, man, and I know young dudes, bro, that I love, you know, telling me stories when they were 10 years old, and, you know, their uncles are gangbanging, and they're making the kid go shoot somebody because the kid's not going to be charged as an adult. And my little dude was so nervous and scared because they pulled up, and the other gang was in a gangway, so they were like, go and do it, you know? And now he's telling me this story, and when he was telling me the story, he was probably like 16. But when it happened, he was around 10. So they give him the gun, and they're like, go do it, you better do it, you know? And they just kind of like scare you into doing it. So he ran out, and he ran up on them and pointed at him, and when he shot, he got scared and dropped the gun and ran back into the car. You know, they all ran, and then he got beat up for dropping the gun.
Well, at least
now, if you grow up like that, like what do you think is gonna happen? You know, or now that I speak at high schools, they give me, you know, boys auditoriums and stuff to speak to these kids, and I have a kid come up to me afterwards, and if you met this kid, like there'd be a good chance you would dislike him, right? Because his attitude, the way he looks at you, he's acting super hard, right? And all these kids around him, and I'm like, yo, I heard you wanted to talk to me, you know? And he's like, not right now. Like, he's super hard, right? The bell rings, the hallway clears up, and I'm like, let's go find a place where we can talk alone. So we go and find this back staircase, and we sit down. The hallway clears out. His whole demeanor changes. He like exhales. He looks at me and just starts crying, man. Like, he didn't even start talking. He just started crying. And I'm like, what's going on, bro? His best friend just got murdered. His dad gangbangs, his mom gangbangs, his cousins, everybody he lives with. And they're telling him, like, you need to kill them niggas. Like, what you gonna do? Like, you gonna let them get away with that? And he's like, what am I supposed to do? What do you tell somebody like that?
Yeah.
You know? Because they're going home to it. It's not like, oh, you know, go tell your mom and, you know, your dad, and they're gonna support. Like, that's what he was going home to. You know, so my goal right now, at least with the music and some of the stuff I'm doing, is hopefully to speak life to people and expose some things. And, you know, in a lot of ways, gangbanging is family. It's love. But it's not a... I don't want to try to say this. Because some of my dudes that's still gangbanging, those are going to be my dudes forever, bro. I love them. I cannot be involved in any of that because it brings death. I've been through things with them. I know they love me, and I love them to the sun burn out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a truth in it. There's a love in it that we're all kind of looking for. That maybe if we don't get at home or if we don't have a family, we get it there, and we feel like, okay, I belong here. Absolutely. These people are for me. But that love only lasts, you know, while you're there. If you try to flip gangs, boy, that love, it can disappear real quick.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's definitely a crazy world. I'm glad I'm never involved in anything like that, but yeah, it's definitely tough for, you know, kids don't have options when they're just, that's the situation they're brought into, you know.
Yeah, and you just think this is life. Yeah. This is what it's like. You know, some of my guys, bro, like some of these kids that I talk to now, and not just the dudes that I know, like they're so bright and they have so much potential, but they don't know they have options. You know, I know kids right now that's in high school and they've never been off of their block, and they feel like this is my block, this is where I'm gonna live and die on this block.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, man, it's not.
The whole world, man.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one more story. A couple years back, I was talking to some of my dudes, and you know, I was already getting pulled out. My mind was already changing about life and everything. And I sat down with all of them, and I'm like, let's talk about some dreams. Like where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You know? And in the group that I was talking about in the room, now one of the people is dead. Another one got shot 4 times, but he lived, and another one of them was shot 3 times, and he lived. And so now one of them, I'm like, you know, what are your dreams? And I start out like, my dream would be to be like rich. I have a mansion somewhere in Hawaii, you know, a studio. I can keep doing music, you know. And he's like, man, just to be real with you, my dream is just to kill these. Which is this gang that has shot him. And I'm like, nah, bro, that's not the question. I'm saying, what's your dream? And he's like, that is my dream.
Wow.
You know?
That's crazy.
And it's deep, man.
That's awful, man.
But there's hope for everybody. Like, I know somebody else that's a gunner, bro, that I know. Like, he's a professional. Like, if you need somebody to disappear, you need somebody kidnapped, you pay this dude, he'll do it.
Wow.
You know, and a couple of years ago, man, I'm trying to see how quickly I can tell you this story because I don't want to take too long. He got saved. you know. And we were talking once on the phone, and before we hung up, and I got saved too, but I didn't tell him, you know, because I'm not gonna tell this dude, yeah, like I don't want to seem soft or something, you know, which is a complete lie. Following God is the most courageous thing you can do in this world. When everybody's telling you not to do that, you know. But if he could get poured out, anybody could. There's hope for anybody, you know, for anybody's life to turn around.
Amen to that. Yeah, I definitely want to get into your story there. But continuing back to when you were a kid, I guess at some point you, I don't know if it's true. The Google told me the first book you ever read was the Satanic Bible. You kind of were getting into witchcraft a little bit, things like that, while you were doing the gang stuff. I mean, is that something you just kind of stumbled upon to try to find something more? Or like, how did that come about for you?
I think like it was a long time ago. I don't remember how I got the book, but I remember starting to listen to Slayer and to like when I was growing up, hip hop just started, right? So there was like metal bands like Slayer, Metallica, and I remember hearing the Slayer album. And they were just all about that, you know. And I'm not gonna say that influenced me, but it was like at that same time. I don't know which came first. I don't remember if I read the Satanic Bible first or listened to Slayer or how I was influenced. But the Satanic Bible definitely did influence me to then seek those things out. You know, to seek out witchcraft and how to cast spells, how to control spirits, and how to dominate this life. Which all I believe now is just a search for God. You know, there's a thing that every man knocking on the door of a brothel is looking for God.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe that's what all of us are doing. Even if when we're doing the super bogus things, we're just looking for God.
Well, just like you said with the gangs, it's like a family. I mean, it's people looking for that acceptance that something else kind of goes along the same guidelines there.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
So then, I guess, obviously you were into music. And then you ended up getting yourself a job at the Chicago tracks by just submitting fake resumes and bothering them. Is that essentially how you did that?
That is very true. You know, so I got into music, and I think I was fairly good at it, at the time. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, how do I get on? And a friend of mine told me, just get in a studio so you could use your studio for free. I called Chicago tracks dozens of times. I ended up like making friends with the receptionist, and she would know I would call again because the guy would never want to talk to me. The owner, he would never take my calls, and I would just keep calling back. And one day, I was like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, "Oh my God, it's you again." And I'm like, "Man, just ask him if he'll talk to me." And she got back on. She's like, "Yeah, hold on." She get back on, and she's like, "He wants to meet you." So and whatever. We set the date. I made a fake resume, like things I knew how to operate, like a tape deck, but I would write like, Techniques X740 playback machine or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went there, and I ended up becoming friends with that guy. We're still cool.
That's what's up.
I walk in there, and I had my little fake resume, and he's like, "Have a seat." He's like, "I wanted to see what you look like," because he's like, you bothered me so much. And then he pointed at a stack of resumes. And he's like, all those resumes are from people in college to be music engineers. He's like, do you know how many of those people have called me? I'm like, no, how many? And he's like, none. Not once.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then he proceeded to talk about aliens for like an hour. What? And then he hired me.
Oh my God.
And we're still friends, man.
How does that happen?
That's awesome.
How does the world work?
Bro, it's magical. There's things you cannot plan on.
That's crazy. So I mean, while you're there, I mean, I guess essentially you ended up learning how to engineer, and I guess you did some work with Peter Gabriel and a few other artists that came through there. Like, in retrospect,
Peter Gabriel
how crazy is
I actually
that?
met in England.
Oh, you met him in England?
Yeah. So while I was there, I would assist the sessions during the day for free. And then I would get the studio, once the last session left, I would get to use the studio. That was my payment.
Oh, yeah.
And I would record my songs. And Ministry came through, this industrial rock band Ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the same weird thing, too. I was in the front. The singer Al came up to the front, just like looked at each other, like nodded at each other. He went back. He asked who I was. His assistant came out, and he's like, yo, Al wants to meet you. So I went into the room, and he's like, I just fired my engineer. Will you engineer this album for me? And I'm like, man, homie, I'm not an engineer. And he's like, either am I, but we can figure it out. I'll give you X amount of money. Will you do it? And at the time I was dealing, and I was like, well, can I deal out of here? And he's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want out of here. And I was like, all right, cool. And then, Al was very much into substance abuse. The first night that I knew him, I thought he was going to be dead by the morning. He was smoking crack and shooting up all night. And I never seen that. Like, the people I hung around, none of them smoked crack. Like, they would sell crack. Well, actually, I knew one dude that smoked it. But that wasn't, like, part of the thing. Like, you don't smoke crack or shoot heroin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you smoke weed and drink Hennessy. So that was my first exposure to, like, somebody that was into it that deep. And in the morning, at like 6 in the morning, I didn't know the guy, but I was like, man, my man, you're going to die. You need to slow down. And he's like, I've been doing this every day for about the last 9 years.
Wow.
I'm going to be fine.
That's
and
crazy.
he wasn't lying, bro. Like, that's how heavy he partied,
That's nuts. So I mean, this whole concept to me is crazy. I mean, Ministry is a huge rock band, right around this time. And, like, I guess as the story goes, he was, like, shooting up in the studio and just essentially kind of just asked you to play guitar even though you didn't know anything about guitars, or?
Yeah, he was knotted out. Like, so there was a lot of downtime because he would shoot up and then he would just knock out. But he's conscious. It's weird. Like, I don't know if you know anybody that's been an addict like that. They look like they're unconscious, but they're not. And so I just started noodling on the guitar, and he didn't even open his eyes. He said, who's doing that? And I was like, I am. And he said, you want to play guitar in the band? I'm like, yeah, sure, bro. Because I figured, like, he's drugged out,
Sure, sounds good.
And
Yeah.
And then he had one of the guitar players, Mikey, show me some of the riffs. And, bro, it was crazy. Like, we got done with the album. Actually, we got done with the album, and I went on vacation with him, that would take way too long to explain. Like, we were visiting crackheads from Las Vegas to California, but like millionaire crackheads, bro. Like, it was just crazy. Like, people, heiresses to like companies and all this stuff that were just smoking crack all night,
Holy cow.
And I already kind of like, I'm not cool with that, man. Like, my thing is, like, you can do whatever you want with your life. I don't want to be around that. It's too negative for me.
Yeah. Even at that time period, you weren't even.
Oh yeah, bro. It's negative. It's like he's constantly bleeding. He's constantly looking for a vein. He's constantly taking a hit of crack. And he was constantly trying to get me to smoke.
Wow.
And I never did. I never tried it. I never will. Lord, I never had the urge to be like, yo, check this out. He tells me that the story of how he became a crackhead. He was in France on tour. He meets these two girls, and at the time he used to snort coke, and the girls were like, nah, you gotta cook it up. Have you never heard of this? And he's like, no, what's that? So they cooked up his coke, and he tells me, he's like, from that night, I've smoked crack every day. Do you want to try some?
No.
I was like, bro, that's the worst sales pitch I've ever heard. Like, what's I don't want to try that.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah,
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Holy cow, that's nuts.
And he'd be all bloody. There's blood everywhere. There's needles everywhere, And he used to get these abscesses because he would miss his veins, and then you get a infection, and it looks like a golf ball under your skin.
Yeah.
And he used to, like, you have to suck them out with the needle, and It's gross, bro.
Holy
it's gross. But God bless him for what I hear. I haven't spoken to him in a couple years, but I hear he's clean. He's not doing that anymore. So
that is probably a good thing. Hopefully, that's a good thing. Yes, don't do drugs, especially not crack and heroin.
Definitely not.
So you essentially just kind of, you wanted to get into music, you faked a resume, you got a job, you stumbled into a huge rock band, ended up helping them engineer and played guitar on the biggest record they released, which ended up being a number 19 on the fucking Billboard charts. Like,
literally stumbled in is a good word.
Yeah, like you stumbled in to one of the biggest rock bands. So next thing you know, you're officially a part of the band now, and you're out. You're in the band ministry, touring, the country, the world.
Yeah, we did world tours. We did that first tour. It was the first time I ever played in front of a crowd was with Ministry. So the first time I walked on stage was at one of their shows. But I had rehearsed for so long, bro. I don't know if you know how much you know about Ministry, but so Al was the main guy, and I had a bass player named Paul Barker. Paul Barker was like the second in command, and he was like the guy that did all the paperwork, and he was the guy that was all together.
Okay.
You dig what I'm saying? And Paul, at first, didn't really like me. And it was funny because Paul was like I ended up finding out later he was a high school English teacher or something before he became a rock band.
Oh, wow.
But so we would be on the bus, and I was younger and I'm excited and we'd be drinking and talking, and I probably wouldn't speak correct English. And he would literally try to stop the party and be like, because my real name is Zlatko, right? And this is what he'd be like, Zlatko, did you even go to high school? Do you know what conjugating verbs means? And I'd be like, what? What are you talking about, man?
We're partying, bro.
On tour. You're conjugating verbs? I don't even know what that means.
Wow, that's crazy.
Homework on to
Get your study time in.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's like you mentioned earlier, a kid from Croatia, basically living in a village. Next thing you know, you're on world tours with a rock band that you accidentally fell into. What was that like? That doesn't even.
This
is crazy, man.
So, but I'll tell you a cool story about that. So that first tour that we did, the last show was in England, and then I flew from England to Croatia to visit my family in the village. And now, because I was just thrown into it like that, and Ministry had a huge fan base, man. It was almost like a little bit cultish. They just loved Al and they loved Dan.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about Al all the time, yeah.
It was like you couldn't do no wrong. People just love you. And so it starts going to your head. So I start thinking I'm a rock star now, So I go back to Croatia to visit my family, and I'm seeing my grandma, and my head's all puffed up because we just did a world tour. I'm a rock star grandma, just kind of feeling that way. And it was, man, my grandma put me in check so quick. She just looked at me she's like, listen, I need you to build me a chicken coop. The other chicken coop is starting to rot out a little bit. The chickens are getting on it. I don't care what she did, but I need this coop. And I was like, oh yeah, that puts things a little bit in perspective.
Bring it right back to the real world.
Yeah, I need to get a grip on reality.
So, man, you ended up sticking with them from, 94 to 99?
Yeah, and then the next tour that they wanted to do, I didn't want to do it. I love hip-hop. I did love metal. I love intense music, but I just can't relate to the lyrics. So when we toured with Ministry, I loved it. I loved the energy of live, drums, live guitars, and that vibe. It's not the same in hip-hop. You don't get that from hip-hop,
No.
And then when we got off that tour, I just wanted to keep doing my music. So I recorded an album, and it was DMX on acid or something. Like it was mix of DMX, Public Enemy, NWA with guitars and some industrial influence and all that. And so I was kind of like just going my own direction, and I didn't want to be around Al anymore. I love him as a person. I can't deal with that level of drug addiction.
Yeah.
And, so when we got back, I recorded a bunch of stuff with the band. They ended up using some of it for the next album. And it was time to do the next tour, and I didn't want to do it. So I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm on my own thing. I can't be around that anymore. And all of them individually, except Al, called me to try to get me to change my mind. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm good, And they had hired a guitar player from this band called Anthrax.
Okay.
And he was in town, and they were rehearsing, and they called me and were like, look, just come through and let's just hang out. You already got another guitar player. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I come through, I see everybody, and it felt really good. And one of the other guitar player, Louis, he was like, man, let's just play a song. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we played, got done, like it felt good. We're just hanging out. Al shows up, and he pulled me to the side, and he's like, listen, if you'll do this tour with us, I won't come around you at all. My truck's in the back of the bus. Like, I'll stay there. I won't even come out. I won't bother you. I won't talk to you. Like, just come and do this tour. And I was like, all right. And bro, that tour was so much fun. Because on the first tour, like, he had heroin, and like we'd be in Amsterdam, like he'd come ask me to help him go get it, and we're like walking through alleys, speaking to the Arab dudes that are yelling in Arabic at each other. It was just like, I wasn't down with that, But that other tour was amazing, bro. Like because I felt like I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
You dig? It wasn't like he was doing me a favor now. Like the first tour I felt like that, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. The second tour just felt like super easy and just filled with love, joy, and some intense shows.
That's what's up. So, I mean, obviously it's a strange situation, getting offered a position in a band by someone nodding out on heroin, and next thing you know, you're in a band touring the world. I mean, were you properly paid for your time in ministry? I mean, was there ever an issue with things like that? Like, I know you said a lot of, you're about the money with the gang life, so I'm sure that was a big deal going into that.
I made enough. Where I didn't get is my publishing, because I didn't know about publishing, about the song, like the songwriting. I didn't write that many of them. One of them that I helped write is on the Matrix soundtrack, and that it went platinum. So that's the only plaque I got, platinum plaque. But I didn't know about that. I was young. I didn't know about taking care of my contracts and stuff. But to give them their credit, Al is the band, bro. Like, he is the whole thing. He every idea comes through him. He was incredibly creative. He was so artistic. Like, he was brilliant. He really was. He was a genius. But the drugs did their thing to him,
Like, they do the most.
Yeah.
So you're doing that, and then you decide you record a demo of your own music. You ended up getting a deal as a solo artist, and you put out the Lung Fu Mo Shi record. That's kind of where it all started for the Marz. That most of the people come to find out about later. Like, how did that all come about? How did you end up getting? Was it the ministry being a member of ministry that kind of helped you with that, or?
I mean, it doesn't hurt. When I was on tour, I'll just tell you the truth about it. When I was on tour with ministry, I met a girl in New York, and she ended up dating a guy that owned the record label. And she's like, man, I played him your stuff. Like, he's really feeling you, blah, blah, blah. He flew to Chicago. We talked. And I just kind of went from there. So that was my first. He had an independent label called National Records, I believe. And from there, he got me a tour with ICP, because I was looking for a hip-hop tour.
Yeah.
And so he calls me up, and I didn't know about ICP. And he's like, there's a tour going out there saying Clown Posse, they're looking for someone to open. And I'm like, are they rap? You know, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, let's do it. Yeah, sort of, yeah. And I found out that first night, you know, and I looked into them before we went on tour. You don't really know about ICP until you go to an ICP show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we met, you know, I did very well during those tours because I was very aggressive. Their crowd will eat you alive, bro. Like, the Juggalos, they're the most loyal. They love ICP. And if whoever is the opening act, they hate you. They hate you for watching you die just so they can see ICP.
Most of the time.
We know all about it. We know all about it.
So the first show with them, it was like some local act was opening that had a band, and then it was us and ICP. And so we're backstage, and I'm taking the chants, and I'm like looking at the crowd, like seeing all these kids painted off, and I'm like, dang, this is different. So about 3 songs in of the opening band, the music stops. One guy comes back. He got hit in the head with a glass ashtray.
Oh shit!
Glass ashtray. Holy shit!
You know, and they were like, "Man, you know, that's that crowd. They're throwing stuff at us the whole time." So that kind of prepared me of what to expect when I went on stage. I would just go on stage and just dominate them. Jump in the crowd. If somebody wanted to fight, jump in the crowd. Like, what's up, bro? And that would completely change the crowd.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when they seen that, and it's funny, man. Like I jumped in the crowd of a couple thousand kids trying to start a fight, and none of them will fight.
That's crazy.
And they all of a sudden respected me.
Hell yeah.
And you know, and as the tour went on, like we would have those incidents, and it would go on, and we would have those incidents, and you just kind of earned their respect, you know. And during that tour, Jay came backstage one time, and he's like, "Hey, we did a side project called Dark Lotus. You want to be on it?" And I'm like, "What is it?" And he's like, "It's super dark. It's about black magic." And at that time, I was into that, bro. Like that was. I don't want to say I wasn't the people into it, but I was into it pretty deep. You know, where I knew things. I had books, I knew about spells, I knew about conjuring, I knew about speaking to spirits and all that. So I'm like, yeah, bro, I could do that. That's easy. You know, so when we went to do that album, you know, none of them knew anything about that.
Yeah,
it was just all for show.
Just a gimmick,
so it'd be like, black wing, chicken leg, you know, cat meow, dark moon. That would be like their lyrics.
It's a chicken leg.
You know what I'm saying? and like, I would be like going through books and spells and like thinking like, what is the most craziest thing I could say out here? And actually, when we were doing it, I can't remember what song or whatever, but I had some very intense lyrics on there. And when I got done doing my verse, you know, they stopped, and the other dudes, Twisted, were like, "Nah, bro, you gotta change that. Like, I'm not going to hell because of some album and because of your lyrics."
Yeah.
And Jay was like, nah, it's fine. Like, we're gonna keep that.
That was I think that was the Call Upon the Gods track. Is what it came from. Which is crazy to me because when I listened to that for the first time, because I was definitely a big fan back then when that album came out. And I always thought that verse sounded like the most Christian thing on that album. And then, it was weird. It seemed out of place to me. I felt like it sounded like a Christian verse, like you were literally talking to God instead of like against God, which is kind of what they want. Yeah, the way they. But that was just that's just what I got from it. But it's kind of weird.
You know
retrospect.
In hindsight, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Because like what I was just saying earlier, it's like, you know, I was looking for God.
Yeah.
And so, and that was always a driving force in my life. And even when I was doing that stuff, and even the songs where I rebelled against the church and I was talking about burning churches down, you know, I can completely see why I thought that. you know, and seeing some of the things that come out of some churches and some things that were done. So I don't look at it necessarily like you just said. It wasn't against God. It was against falseness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, I mean, that was a huge moment in time for you and, you know, your music career. I mean, what was it like? I mean, you're out there on the Bazaar tour. You know, I guess you guys had to buy in each night. You had to, I guess, the label backing you. The next thing you know, they want you to be, you know, part of their new group and sign to their label. And, you know, just, I know, I mean, what was it like? Like, first of all, meeting them and, you know, obviously, like you said, the crowd's crazy and, you know, all these gimmicks and everything. I mean, what was your reaction to them and how did you guys end up becoming, like, you know, what was it that made them want to add you to that group, which was like a huge, you know, obviously you've come to learn later that was like a huge project for like the fan base and everybody else.
It was the first time when he told me to be on it, it was the first time I ever heard about it. So I came back to Chicago and I told my brother that I'm going to be in Black Lotus.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think that's what it's called.
It's close.
It was cool, bro. You know, it was weird because I worked hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I worked hard in my life. Like, when I was dealing, like, I worked hard. I was always in the studio. I was always kind of working on my craft. But then the things that happened were completely out of my control. It's weird how that happens, you know? It was just like I would just keep working, and then, like, some weird random thing would happen, and I'd end up, whether it was with Ministry or with Peter Gabriel or with ICP or with Korn, or it would just kind of happen, you know? And so it's almost like you're just on this ride, you know? And when I first met them, and I still got love for them, you know? Jay is a strange dude, you know, but we all got our things. And the fallout that I had was with Jay because Juggalos took to me so fast.
Yeah.
And he knew I couldn't get signed to his label. He knew I was signed to someone else. He asked me to be on the album. My label gave me permission, and he knew all this. And then when the album came out, Juggalos just started talking about me. So he literally sat me down, and he was like, listen, every time I talk to Juggalos, every time I log in, because back in the day, there was chat rooms.
Oh, yeah.
That, right? Like, you had the area log in, and then you go to a chat room. And it's like, on there, they're just talking about you, but they need to be talking about ICP and Blaze, Twisted. And I was just like, I'm not sure what you're saying, bro. You asked me to be on that album.
Yeah.
You know, and I could feel like it was starting to get weird with him, you know? And it just kind of kept separating. For them, for Twisted, for Blaze, for Shaggy, anybody killer I've spoken to, anybody killer I've spoken to, Twisted. You know, I haven't spoken to Jay, but he dissed me in a song they released. I don't know,
Yeah, recently, yeah.
6 foot.
6 foot, 7 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot.
Yeah, and you know, I started getting notices and Facebook things like, yo, Jay's, you know, ICP just dissed you. And I'm like, nah, they're not talking about me. It was probably somebody else. And they're like, no, your picture's in the video.
Yeah.
And so I watched it, and it kind of made me smile because I thought, man, all right, my brother, I love you too. Because you must miss me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a while.
Definitely made an impression, for sure.
Yeah, so, but God bless them, man, and what they're doing, you know, they earned it.
So essentially you guys had a falling out. They removed you from the album or replaced you with ABK, and then I guess
Which basically ruined the album, in my opinion.
Yeah, we all agree with that. Your verses were definitely better.
Mad love to ABK, but yeah, the original.
Yeah, we love
Lotus
ABK, but the original lineup is my favorite. The pre-release Tales from the Lotus Spot it saved my life. It really did.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
very
like
deep.
legit shit. Like I was in a dark place back then, and that album, the pre-release, I only knew of the pre-release because that was back in burning CD days and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know of the other album, the ABK version, until I went to a Lotus concert, and it blew my mind. I got so mad, I fucking walked out. That was like the first concert I ever walked out of because of they started singing Juggalo Family with the different lyrics. That song especially saved my life, and I was so fucking mad I walked out.
Wow.
Yeah, but no, that pre-release Tales from the Low Spot, man, it saved my life. And your verses are so dope on there, man. I mean, I just loved it, and to find that they changed it, and now like that's all that Juggalos know now. I mean, it's heartbreaking because it's like, man, y'all missed out. You really did.
Well, the weird thing. There were some weird things that happened, bro. I'll give you one example. So during that whole time when we were recording that, I was staying with Jay. Right, so I was staying at his house, and then we would go to the studio in the morning together, pick up Shaggy together, and the whole time he's telling me, "Come back out on tour with us." At the time I had a band, so he's like, "I'm not gonna charge you. Stay on the bus with us. Paint your face just for this one tour." Which was the second leg of the Bizarre tour.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the Dark Lotus tour together. And I'm like, bro, the painting the face thing is not my thing. Like, that's your thing. And the whole time we were recording the album, he would ask me. And one morning, we went and picked up Shaggy, and Shaggy gets in the car, and he asked again, and he's like, tell him that he should paint his face. It's going to be like one whole tour, like all of you ain't got to do it again. And I'm like, but that's your thing, bro. And he's like, it's just for the tour, just do it. And Shaggy was like, oh, just do it. And I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll do it. I'll do it for this tour.
Yeah.
Then he comes out and look how I stole their idea and concept and started painting my face.
What the fuck?
You begged me to do that for weeks. That was the type of interaction with Jay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of things like that have come into the light in recent years with the way he handles business or gets upset about things. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But I guess you guys kind of had a falling out, whether it be, he didn't like the fact that people were liking you and he couldn't have you as a part of his label.
That was the thing. He wouldn't make money off of me,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, besides the Dark Lotus album, but that's not. There's a control thing,
Absolutely.
There's some control issues that are at hand there with that label and with him, and I didn't fit that control, and I still try to be cool with him, bro. Because when I felt something was happening, I called him. And I'm in Chicago, and I'm like, bro, I'm hearing all type of things. Do me and you got a problem? And he was like, no, we don't. I'm like, who's at the studio right now? And everybody was there. He's like, I'm here, Shaggy's here, Twisted's here, Marz was there, ABK's here, everybody, bro. And I'm like, I'm driving there right now. We'll just talk, settle this. Cause I don't like the he say, she say thing, telling you about somebody. I'm gonna just come there, and I didn't say it threateningly, like I'm gonna come and see you. I just said it like, yo, man, tell everybody to chill out. I'm gonna come there right now. Let's just squash whatever drama's gonna happen, bro. I drove all the way there. All of them had left, and Rude Boy was there. I'm like, bro, where they at? He's like, you know what's up, bro. I'm like, all right. So
that's fucked up.
And that was it, man. Then I moved on from there. I got signed to Geffen Interscope Records by Then that took me on a whole other trajectory.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world. So you guys had your falling out. I think you did do one performance with Lotus, didn't you? Was it just one show?
Yeah, it was at the Gathering.
The Gathering, yeah.
Yeah, the phone call and all that was after the Gathering. And the same thing is at the Gathering, there was just too many people on me for his liking.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's every year.
It's terrible. Who knows what could have happened?
You don't want nobody to get shine.
But so then, I mean, you do that. Obviously, I know at the time, I guess you were probably a little upset because you released your real "I'm the Real Dark Lotus" track.
Yeah, I was because he was lying, man. Like he was saying things that were not true, And it's one thing, like if me and you got beef, and you're telling the truth about it.
Yeah.
But it was really upsetting me because he was just saying all this stuff about me that was completely false. So there was no other way for me to get back at him. And I love hip hop and I love diss tracks.
Absolutely. That's how you communicate in hip hop.
Yeah, so I felt like, all right, if you want to play like that, I could play like that, bro.
Absolutely. That's what's up. So then like you said, you ended up linking up with Jonathan Davis, doing some shows with Korn. I guess at one point you were getting a lot of love from Juggalos still, and did something happen when Jonathan Davis had a problem with you using the word Juggalo on an album?
Yeah, it wasn't. I can't remember if it was him or the label, but somebody hit me like, yeah, you can't thank, because I just thank the Juggalos, And I was never a Juggalo, right? Like, I got pulled into that world. I respect it for what it is. I got love for Juggalos. I was never a Juggalo, Not in that sense to where I knew about ICP and I knew their lyrics and I, was kind of part of that whole culture. I got pulled into it, did my thing on the Dark Lotus album and pulled out.
Yeah.
But I had love for all the Juggalos because even that, bro, like Juggalos would say the craziest things about me online. But then I would meet them on tour and it was like all love.
For sure.
That's
how they still are.
What's that?
I said that's how we still are. It's probably 10 times worse now.
But I got love for them, because the ones that I've met, the ones that I got to interact with, it was great. It was all love, So I wanted to, even though I was away from that world, I wanted to thank them because I did have fun on those tours. I met a lot of people that I had love for on those tours, and I made relationships with. So I wanted to give them kind of a shout out, and the label was like, "No, don't do that. Like, don't mention them." I'm like, "What you mean? I can't mention that? Like, I can't. You can control my thank yous."
Yeah,
you're
gonna edit my thank yous because ICP called Jonathan Davis gay.
Yeah, like that's between them.
Absolutely. So you're out there. So you're continuing on with your career, doing your thing. You link up with Korn, and then I don't know if this is the first time it showed up in your life, but obviously it was a huge thing in the music world and fans of music when Head decided he was going to give his life to God and go Christian. Was that did that have an impact on where you are in life now, or was that?
No, bro. I thought he was crazy. Like, we all thought he was crazy. We thought, like, oh, they got him. They tricked him.
Yeah.
They're going to take his money. And I thought it was weird. And it didn't make me curious about it. It wasn't like, oh, Heck got saved, so I'm going to look into it. I was not in that world, bro. I was getting high and dating porn stars and, not searching for God. And actually, I was searching for God, but I didn't
just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, I didn't know it, but I wasn't looking like it that way, bro. I was like, oh, you're going to stop doing drugs and go to church? That sounds nice.
Yeah.
Didn't sound nice to me. Sounded crazy.
I think that's well. I remember that happened and everybody was freaking out. And he cut his dreads and I was like, what happened to this guy? So you're still up.
Man. He got hit of drug addiction. Yep. And what I've found out now that I've been almost 10 years, and it's the people that have the drastic conversion, a personal, intimate experience with Christ, and that does stuff like cure him of his addiction, and it transforms your life. That's how you know when it was real. Your life just does a 180. Everything looks different. All of a sudden, it's like you woke up for the first time, and everything you've been doing just looks different. And it transforms you. So now I know that. I didn't know it at that time. I just thought it was.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, like you said, you're still out there. You're doing your thing. Still living the rock star life, like you said, rap star life, whatever you want to call it. What was it? What triggered you? I know some story having to do with a friend. Tell us what changed Marz from the kid reading witchcraft books and being in a rock band ministry and, like you said, dating porn stars and doing whatever you want and being in Dark Lotus, and next thing you know, you decide to, like, what led you down the road we're on today?
I try to give you a short version of the story because, you know, like I've kind of hinted to, it was all those things, you know, and then I was rehearsing to go on tour with Tech Nine and Paul Wall. There was a female in my life that was incredibly heavily into witchcraft, like generations deep, you know, and the type of witchcraft is called Santeria. And I was involved in it also, not nearly at the depths that her and her family were. Around that same time, a real good friend of mine got murdered. And after he had got murdered, there was these, all type of demonic stuff started breaking out in my house, right? One, it was because I was dating this girl. Half of her family liked me, half of them didn't. And I found out later, like they had whole altars with a dead goat, our pictures, and like sacrificed chickens and all this stuff against us. So I thoroughly experienced the demonic, you know, like at levels that I had never experienced before.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and it was crazy, bro. Like, and this lasted for a while. You know, I remember there was a season where probably for 6 months I didn't sleep. Every night, me and her would get attacked, and it's weird even talking about it because if you haven't experienced it, it would just sound like I'm crazy. Yeah. It'll just sound like some either making up crap or whatever, but it's real.
It's real.
Yeah, I've experienced some things, maybe nothing like that.
Nothing demonic, but I've had every type of interaction or encounter with paranormal stuff, like whether it's seeing it, being touched by it. Yeah, never been. Well, according to my girlfriend, I've been possessed, but I don't know about that because obviously I wasn't there for it. But you know, seeing a no, I wasn't even drinking that night. But no, I believe it, man. That's just real. Not for everybody, though. Like everybody's not open to it, but
yeah, not everybody sees it, you know. And I had an experience with a pastor when we had a crazy demonic episode in the house, and after it was done, he told me, he's like, most Christians will never see that. How often have you seen something like this? And I was like, several times. Like this is not like my first time seeing something like this. And he's like, people can live their whole Christian life, never experience that. So for whatever reason, God is showing it to you. You know, and I feel like I understand now why I went such a weird route to get to where I'm at. You know, because I didn't believe, and I'm not the type of person that would just believe you by what you say. Right. It has to be logical to me. I have to experience it. It has to make sense of this whole big puzzle of life. It can't just be because you said it or just a random book said it.
Right. And, you know, when it comes to the paranormal stuff, like I completely agree. You know, it's like there are people out there that just, everything's just paranormal. And I try to look at it like logically. It's like, all right, what the fuck could have this been? But, you know, it's like, all right, there's no reasonable explanation why this thing picked up off the table and flew across my room in front of me. You know,
exactly.
Which has happened to me before. And it's, you know, I don't go all crazy, you know, like, oh my God, everything, you know, there's ghosts everywhere, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Or like everything's, you know, haunted or ghost. But, you know, at the same time, I've had stuff happen to me where I've logically thought about it and be like, well, I cannot come up with a reason or things that the way I recall it, how it happened. I cannot say, hey, this is not paranormal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's being intellectually honest. You know, it's like, I don't completely understand it, but there's definitely more to life than just what we see in the physical.
Correct.
Right. And, you know, my thing about that is, you know, if you're talking about like the whole, like there's ultimate power and all that stuff, it's not necessarily that, I'm not an atheist by any means, but like I consider myself agnostic. You know, it's like, it's one of those things that I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I'm not going to sit there and talk bad on it. You know, organized religion is that's a whole other demon in and of itself, just organized religion. But what they are worshiping. That's the total separation, totally separate from what it is. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. It could. To what extent, to what version, to how much they're watching me, how much is this what they're saying is true. I will not know until it comes time, and I live my life on a karmatic value. Like if it feels right, like by karma to me, if it feels like good karma to me, I'm gonna do it. I try to live my life the way I feel it should be good. Like I try to be good to my own extent. And that's my religion. It's like, hey, if it feels good, like karma wise,
well, basically do unto others as you would have to do. Right. So
right.
That principle. That's one of the principles that Christ spoke about.
Right.
And so here's how it kind of looped to Jesus. Right. As all this demonic activity was happening, and I would go to different people to, put spells back on other people, and then to get cleansed, because to be cleansed, you have to do sacrifices, and you have to do all this other stuff. And I was speaking to a friend of mine, and I was kind of tired of it. Like, there has to be something bigger than all of this, right? There has to be an ultimate power. There has to be an ultimate energy, or whatever you want to call it, that trumps all this. And my guy told me, he's like, there is. It's Jesus. And I was like, man, go on with that corny talk, bro. Like, I'm talking about, like, something real. Like, at the time, I didn't believe Jesus existed, like, as a human being in history. I didn't believe Jesus was God. I didn't believe Jesus was Savior. I thought the Bible was a man-made book. It's used to control people and to manipulate you. It was made by the Council of Nicaea. And I had all these preconceived notions about what it was.
Right.
But I had an experience with Christ, with Jesus, the Jesus that is revealed in the Bible. I saw what the name of Jesus can do to demonic stuff. And even once I saw it, I still didn't believe. I thought, okay, that was a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, that must have just been for whatever reason, when I said his name, the stuff subsided, but it's just a coincidence,
Right.
And then I still was looking into it, but it made me then curious, like, oh, wow, like, what's up with Jesus? Like, why is that name and why is that character, why won't he go away? What is there something eternal in that concept, And there's, I'm sure you guys know from just living life, there's levels to everything. There's the top superficial level if you read the Bible the first time, but there's levels after that, bro, that just goes on and on and on. And, I study a lot, the experiences that I've had, what Jesus does, the Spirit of Christ, right? And you could look at it from a superficial level, or you could look at it like, let me give you an example of taking it in depth, right? The example of Jesus on the cross, right? Yeah. It can be summed up in this. Since he is the way, right? He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you look, what was the way that he showed? It's almost like in this world, right? You can either become super cynical, so you live life long enough, and you're like, man, life is evil. There's murders. People rape women and children, and they rape men. There's wars. There's ISIS. There's gangbangs. There's drug addicts. There's people dying. So you can start seeing that as death and darkness, and we can become cynical, right? Life's not even worth living. We get betrayed by someone that we loved, and we're like, that's it. All women are whores, right? Like, I don't want nothing. And we can get kind of closed up, which is death, right?
Right.
What Jesus showed was you accept this world and you continue to hope and trust in the one that created this world, that he is good, and that at the end of this, it's going to be good, and now walking through it, the more noble, the more truer, the more beautiful choice is to choose life. The more beautiful choice is for me to not become a cynic, but for me to go, if you're going through a hard time, to give you a kind word, to help you out, to give you a ride, to throw you a couple dollars so you can get some food, and to do whatever I can to help you, to be a light for you. You dig? So I believe those are the two roads what the Bible speaks about.
Yeah.
There's a fork in the road. One road leads to death. One path leads to life. Jesus is that path that leads to life. And we can keep unpacking that forever, because it's not just, the top superficial level, like, hey, just say the prayer. Like, all you got to do is just say the prayer that you believe in Jesus, and then you get to heaven, brother. That's another thing that I believe that the Western church has done. They've cheapened it into just a ticket to heaven. It's just, here's your ticket to heaven.
Well, they do that so that way more people I could just do this. I just go to church, and then it's like, I get in. So that way it brings more people in. They make more money on it.
Exactly. And then they keep you in fear, right?
Oh, yeah.
They hold you in that fear because you want to lose your ticket,
Exactly. You don't want to lose that golden ticket. Absolutely not. You must repent.
And my experience of it is a little bit different. Salvation, when the Bible talks about salvation, the Greek word is sozo. It is being made whole. It is being made complete, and it is being restored.
Wait, did you say Zozo?
Yeah.
Oh man, I heard that was a demon.
No, it's actually what I think Led Zeppelin named their album Sozo.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
It's just the word for salvation.
Okay.
In the Greek, in the original Greek. But what that word means, it doesn't mean your ticket to heaven. It means to be restored. It means to be healed. It means so look, all of us have areas in our life that are out of balance, right? Some people are extremely out of balance, right? And not in harmony, right? So whether it's from a drug addiction, from abuse, whether they're lying, they're manipulating, whatever it may be, they have lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, or their pride. All these areas that are out of sync. What salvation is when you can see and you trust that God is good, and the cross shows how much He loves us, not how much He hates you. Right? The cross is a symbol of the Creator putting on flesh and saying, I know you're going to spit on me. I know you're going to do all these things, but let me show you how I feel about you.
But I believe that the cross is like wearing crosses, crucifixes, and all that stuff. I think that's what you said earlier is a westernized, I forgot how you said it, or how you put it, but the westernization of it, that actually back in the day, when that was going on, when he was crucified and all that stuff, that the Romans would go around with crucifixes as a way of pardon my French, but fuck you to him, like, hey, no, we crucified your God, and they went around with crucifixes, and initially, the crucifix was an insult to him, and then one of his apostles, I cannot remember his name, actually inverted it to say as an insult to the Romans, they're like, hey, no, we're not going to stand for this. Like, you have no power over this symbol and all that stuff. And then they got adapted into just the crucifix being a sign of positivity and all that stuff. Whereas initially, I believe it was an insult.
Think about it like this. Think about the power of the spirit of what happened on that cross. They crucified millions of people, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he could have been one of any number of nameless, homeless carpenters, weirdos that thought he was God, or that thought he was speaking for God, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not what happened. And so the symbol that was a symbol of the ultimate, it was the symbol of death. And it was a symbol of a torturous death. It was the most torturous death that the Romans came up with. Because you would be asphyxiated, It would take you a long time to die. It was very painful, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I believe what you're talking about is one of the disciples. He also got crucified. He asked to be crucified upside down.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you're talking about.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but so what happens with Christ is he conquered death. That's the whole story. That's what it all hinges on. So he took the exact symbol that means death, and now it means life. And it doesn't, I don't wear crucifixes. When I'm talking about looking at the cross, I'm not saying like go look at somebody's chain in his neck. I'm talking about the deep meanings, the layer after layer of meaning. If you just meditate on what that means,
like the symbolism of it, the symbolism of it.
The symbolism of it, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That death was turned to life. That the whole purpose that why he's called the Savior is because he takes death and he gives life. He gives beauty for ashes. He gives laughter for mourning. It's every good thing coming up out of whatever you thought was the worst thing.
Right.
And it's a level of psychology. And again, if you don't believe in the actual, physical event, the deeper levels of psychology are true. They just are. Do you know what I mean? It is better for you to live life with the mind of Christ than to live life with the mind of Judas.
Right.
And I think if we live long enough, we have to admit that. Even if we want nothing to do with Christianity and the church and the Bible, if you look at the psychological implications of all those things, a lot of times when I talk to my atheist friends, they think that it's barbaric, right? Or they'll say it's nothing but a Copper Age myth, and it's like this barbaric thought. It's not. It is not. It is some of the most deep. It is maybe on the surface if you don't dive into it. But if you dive into it and you see the psychological, spiritual, mental, physical ramifications of it, it's deep, bro. It is definitely not something that is superficial.
And, even on its surface, like it's definitely, there's a lot of people out there who have taken those deep, deep meanings and, even the truths of the stories and the fables, and they've definitely skewed it, which, there's so many blurred lines when it comes to, Christianity just alone. It's definitely like, so, I mean, there's positives and negatives with everything. And, it only takes one person to ruin a good thing for other people. And, that's just the way I view organized religion. I mean, but, it's good to know that, that you believe so deeply in this and you found salvation in it.
Well, I think what that really turned me off about Christianity before was the church and the people that represent it.
The organized religion.
Organized religion, absolutely, bro. Yep. And, I know right now they're doing the best they can, and we're all in a fallen state, right? We're not perfected. We're not, And look, you could look at it like this. I have two little boys, they just turned 2. They already know how to lie. They could barely talk. It's just in us.
Yep.
Right? This kind of nature, this fallen nature is just in us. You don't have to teach a kid to lie. They just know how to lie. Right? So I'm at a place right now where I have more grace for the church and for the people that are in there, and they're trying. The kind of cliche saying is, a church is a hospital. So it'd be like if we go into a hospital, we're like, look at a cancer patient. What do you think? You're not. Look at you. You got cancer still. Like, we got cancer still, man. They're like trying to get healed. And they might not be healed yet. And so I give them grace, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I feel like are done very bogusly. So I try to gracefully speak on those things, knowing my own weaknesses and the ways that I make mistakes, but a lot of the ways that I was turned away from Christianity was because of pastors.
Yeah.
How they spoke to me when I was younger, what they said to me when I was younger. And I thought, okay, if that's Christianity is false. once I met Christ and had an experience with Jesus, and then started studying the Word, and especially now the more I study the Word, I realized what the Bible is saying is drastically different than what most of commercialized Christianity is saying. I mean, drastically different. To where it's like, if I were to kind of just go into a church and just say it out loud, they would say I'm a heretic.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's where the difference would lie. That are we getting our information about Christianity from the church and other believers, or from Scripture and from the Holy Spirit? And quite often, the message is going to be different. Sometimes it'll be similar, and sometimes it'll be the same. A lot of times it'll be a different message. You know. But I'll give you one example. Jesus said, "Now is the judgment of the world." Now is the judgment of the world. Now the ruler of this world will be cast out. And then he went and hung on a cross. And while people were spitting on him, he said, "Father, forgive them." So what is the judgment of the world?
You cut out a little bit. I didn't hear the first part of that.
So Jesus said, "Now is the judgment of the world."
Mm-hmm.
And then he got crucified. And while he was on the cross, he said, "Father, forgive them." So what is the judgment of the world? Forgiveness.
Yeah, forgive. Yeah, I was trying to search for the way to say it. But yeah.
It's forgiveness. But if most of the times when you hear about God's judgment, is that what you hear?
No.
God's judgment is forgiveness.
When I think of God's judgment, I think of the Old Testament. Where God has killed 10,000% more people than Satan himself. Satan killed 7 people in the Old Testament, and God killed millions. That's what I think of when I think of God's judgment.
So, can we get into this? You got 5 minutes?
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
All right. So, biblically speaking, Jesus Christ is the express image of the invisible God. So, to understand the whole Old Testament, you have to see it with what's called a Christology, right? Okay. To look through the whole Old Testament and say, how could this make sense? How could God be good but do these things? You follow me?
Yeah, I'm following.
So we would have to go from the beginning, the purpose, right? A lot of people will say, think that this is all a freight train out of control, right? God put his kids in the garden. The wily snake was there, the snake was there, and then God turned his back. The snake got, the girl to eat the apple, and now humanity is fallen, and God comes back, and now it's this big mess. And now God is kind of like flustered, and he's just like, "Oh my God, what do I do now? Okay, I got to do something to fix this mess that was made out of my creation." That's generally how that story is looked at, and it is completely false.
Yeah.
All of this, if the Bible is true, right? If the story in the Bible is true, if that narrative is true, this has always been the plan. The fall was part of the plan. For some reason, the fall is actually how we rise. It is through death that we get life. It is through destruction that the true you is made. A seed has to fall in the dirt, be in darkness, it has to die. The outer shell falls apart, and a new life is born through that. That is the process of creation. And in the beginning, God said, "Let us create mankind in our image," which is a radical concept for any religion. Because people were the playthings of gods. People were not made in the image of God. So that thought itself is just like, it breaks all type of other tradition that we are made to just think that, like, bro, you're made in his image, or you are being made in his image. But not to be made in his image, you have to experience the fall. So for example, let's say me and you are in a perfect dimension.
Yeah.
None of us lie. None of us betray each other. None of us, you never have to forgive me. And I ask you, what do you think of forgiveness? And you're like, yo, that's a cool concept. And I'm like, well, what if me and you were to enter into this world and I backstab you and I betray you, so you're forced to actually experience forgiveness?
Yeah.
That is what the fall is.
Yeah.
For a certain amount of times, we are allowed to experience that. And God gives life and death. But it's not ultimate death.
So what
it's
you're
death
saying,
in this reality.
So what you're saying is that in the Old Testament, the mass amounts of death at God's hand was kind of metaphorically like rebirthing, like finding the light again, feeling the fall. It wasn't actually like mass death. It was, people experiencing the fall.
People experiencing the fall to bring them to life. And now let me give you some scripture for that, because I didn't notice before. So let's say a good argument against what I'm saying right now that I've heard before would be like, well, what about the flood?
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, so you're saying God is loving and God has a good purpose for us. Well, what about the flood, which killed, let's say the whole planet? If it happened, right, physically. So let's just say it did, right? And so I justify that.
Right.
And then you see Jesus go into what's called Hades, which is not hell. It's just a realm of the dead where the dead go, and he preaches the gospel to the dead. Yeah. You look at Sodom and Gomorrah, where it was destroyed with fire, with eternal fire. And then you see in Ezekiel, God say, I will restore Sodom and all her sisters. And it's in this process that we are in the age that we are in, because God always works in ages. Like the Bible is in ages. It's not in a forever. The whole concept of like forever and ever is a false translation. God always works in ages. So in a certain age, he lets us experience certain things. Next age, he lets us experience certain things. But he always restores. Every story ends like that. Yeah. Whether it's this book of Job, whether it's what he did in the flood, whether it's what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, whether it's what happens to the Israelites, and what he allows to happen to them, and it says in the end, but all of Israel will be saved. This whole story is a story of lessons, learning, and then restoration.
Yeah.
And being made into his image, which is Christ. So if I had to simplify this story, I would say there's only two humans that ever existed. The first Adam and the last Adam. The first Adam is a fleshy being, right? And we get to experience our flesh, our lust, our desires, the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. We sin, we do drugs, we cheat, we steal, we kill, right? That's the first Adam.
Right.
Yep.
That's the nature of the first Adam. Jesus is the last Adam. He's the archetype of who we are actually to become. And what the Bible calls the mystery hidden for generations and ages is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Not just in believers. It was the message to the non-believers. And even Paul murdered Christians, right? He was Paul Saul, and he murdered Christians. He hated Christians. And later, after he became a Christian, became probably the single most biggest spreader of Christianity. He said, when it was in God's good timing and his will to reveal in me his son, Christ in me. So the story completely changes when looked at from that perspective. When it's looked at from a perspective of, well, God just kind of threw you on this planet. And let me tell you, man, most of the ending for most people is horrible. And God hates all of you. You can barely stand looking at you pieces of crap.
Right.
Or the story of God is the God of love. And he created this for a specific reason. It was to make us into his image. His will be done. Being made in that image is painful There's going to be pain and suffering and death and cancer and murders and wars and all these things. But ultimately, he is good. Everything he does is good. And he will never allow something to happen that he cannot ultimately restore. And I would say that's the gospel. That's the true gospel.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think of how to say this. So, like, and obviously we kind of heard your story tonight, and you know, you ended up in the darkest of dark places to find, you know, Jesus or find the light. What would be your thoughts or ideas or suggestions to just the average person who may not end up in such a dark place to find that light, who's just, you know, a normal average guy who's not sure what to do or where to go or whether he's good or bad, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, how does someone who doesn't end up in such a dark place end up finding that light?
Well, I think we're all different, and we all need different things to motivate us to get plugged back in with our Creator. So, and everyone is going through pain. Everybody's going through some type of struggle. You know, if you just scratch a little bit under the surface, for most people, you will find some deep pain, some deep experiences of things in this life that either need healing or where we need harmony, where we need peace, where we need joy. You know, and we run to it. We seek it by running to alcohol, you know, by running to weed, by running to all these different things that none of them in moderation are wrong, but you know those things can destroy you. You know? Mm-hmm. And what I would say then is there's whatever version of you have right now, is an infinitely better one if you plug into the one that created you. You will be transformed. And it's like, it would almost be the difference of this, bro. Imagine I had a phone and all I can do on it is like scroll through the pages. It's not hooked onto the internet. It's not hooked on the Wi-Fi. So I could maybe play a game on it superficially, right? Or look through the pictures or look something. But I can't experience the full power of that phone until it's plugged in to the net.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. The Holy Spirit is that Wi-Fi. You know, Jesus is the door. He's the entranceway. It's when there's kind of a submission, right? You realize, like, one, I'm not the creator. There's things that I cannot understand. There's things I could definitely do better. You know, it's a humbling.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do it, but I would like to see more. I would like to know the Father, and you plug in. And it's like Jesus is the Wi-Fi code, bro.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like, I don't know, like with your experience, for example, obviously, you know, you were into a lot of things. You're out there being a rock star, dating porn stars, like, you know, living the life. And then, you know what I'm saying, you found your way into Christianity and finding Jesus. Like, how, I mean, obviously life changed. Like, how does, like, what was, I mean, I don't even know how to answer this question, but like what happened, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, you just decided, you know what I mean? Like, this experience happened to you and you found that light while you're in, you know, essentially fighting demons. And then, like, the next day, was it just like, okay, I'm a good guy. No more dirty raps,
bro,
and no more, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't talk to my friends. I can't go drink. I can't smoke weed. I got to cut everybody off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your whole world. So, I mean, what was that like? How do you...
Are you straight edge? Or, like, do you drink?
Some things changed right away. What really drastically changed was my view. The way all of a sudden I saw things. The way I saw my music. The way I saw having a record deal and doing tours. That changed instantly. And, you know, when I went on that Paul Wall and Tech 9 tour, it was a struggle for me, bro, because every night I was seeing the lyrics that I was spitting, and I would get done with the song and, like, start preaching, you know? Because all the songs were about, you know, either getting hoes or dealing drugs or being on the block or something. you know, and I'm like influencing these kids, and I saw it for the first time clear, right? So I get off that tour, and I went to Croatia. I went to visit my family, and I had a Bible that a stripper gave me, like years ago, man. For some reason, I still had this Bible, and I brought it with me, and I just started kind of like skimming through it, trying to understand it, you know, and because I met Christ, and I had some supernatural experiences with Jesus. That would take a little too long to kind of get into right now. So I'm like, all right, I know he's real. I saw the power of Jesus. Now let me see if this book is real, and if this is really about him. And I walked through the hills, through the forests and stuff, and just talk to God. And I was there for 3 weeks. And as I would do that, memories would come to mind. All these things I did, situations I was involved with. And I would just kind of watch them play back in my mind. And I saw them brand new, fresh, with completely different eyes, a completely different heart. And I was like, dang, I see it. And when I left that vacation, bro, because I was dirty. I wasn't some serial killer or some crazy thing like that, but I was involved in some things, man. I had a lot of dirt on me, and I felt dirty. You know, like it was just this weight on me. And I just thought that's how life is. You know,
No.
Almost like what I was telling you earlier, the cynical side, where I said there's two paths. I was just like, that's how it is. Everybody's doing it. I'm going to do it too. You know, and I'm gonna get on before you get on, and I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to get on. And so you feel dirty. After I came back from that vacation, I felt clean again. I felt like a little boy. I felt back like that little boy that first came to Chicago from Croatia. I had that innocence back. You know?
That was the pre-stabbing Marz.
Pre-stab, yeah, well, post-stabbing.
Post-stabbing Marz.
Yeah. But pre-life in Chicago, Marz. And then it was like trying to find your footing, man, because I didn't feel like I belonged in church. I felt too dirty for the church. But then I would go and see my boys, but there was something that changed. And like I told you, I love them, and I still love them. I would never turn my back on them, you know? But I can't live like that no more. Like,
Yeah.
I can't just hang out like that and be kicking in. I don't have a desire to drink anymore. It took me a while to stop smoking weed. It took me probably 2 years. And I had that quitting weed was just it was a miraculous thing for me. I kept trying to quit. I kept trying to quit. I couldn't. And one day I just kind of prayed. It wasn't even really a prayer. I was kind of mad at God. I was like, you're supposed to help me with this. I don't know how to quit. Like I just want to smoke. Like I don't know how to quit. So this is what I do. Like please, like if you want me to not smoke, take the desire away from me. And I had a studio where some other rappers and the studios like everybody smoke weed. You know what I mean? Especially hip hop.
But isn't there references in like historical references to Jesus and all that stuff? Wasn't there like the burning bush? Isn't that like a reference to them that
to smoking weed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people would tell you because when he said I've made every herb of the fields for you to use, Look, personally, I would not tell anybody like don't smoke weed for you. It's wrong for me. It takes my motivation. It takes my energy. Like, it's just not something that I wanted in my life anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
I don't want to smoke weed because it's just eating me.
It wasn't making you a better person is what you're saying.
In my opinion, no.
Yeah, it was. You were wanting to better yourself, and that was one of those things that you viewed negatively overall.
Yes.
Like for you. Yeah. Okay. I get
me
what
personally,
you're saying.
like,
I get what you're saying.
Like people smoke weed. Like I'm not about to judge somebody. Like there's a dude in the forest and he loves nature and he smokes weed. Like I'm not gonna go tell you and like that's it. You make that decision.
You're right.
You know what I mean? But for me, it was wrong. And bro, it just left me.
Yeah.
So about a month went by and I didn't even notice. And then one day I was like, yo, I ain't smoked weed in like a month. And that's been man, about 8 years now. I have no desire for it. I still like the way it smells.
Yeah.
I just don't have a desire to smoke it, you know? And then it was a process. It's still a process, bro. Salvation is an event. It's a gift. It's a revelation of who Jesus is and who the Father is and who you are. It's a revelation, right? You can't force it. You can't beat somebody into. You cannot guilt someone into faith. You cannot fear someone into faith.
They have to want.
It's a revelation of who God is and who you are.
Yeah,
right?
that's just like
But
somebody
then-
trying
but then
to
once you-
break an addiction. Like it doesn't matter how much counseling you do, how much drugs you use, like anti things to help you quit, like whatever drug it is. You have to want it ultimately. Like you can't
Absolutely.
just that I had a bad alcoholism spout there for a while, and I got real bad with it, and I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to, and people were telling me this. I went to the hospital a couple times because of it, and eventually I kind of just was like, you know what, I really need to get a hold of this. And, I did everything. I was fortunate enough that I have a really strong willpower, and that when I put my mind to something, I can make it happen. And I listened to my body. My body told me, hey, you need to do this, man. You need to get this under control. And I have. And, and I've been able to maintain it. I have ups and downs, but, I understand what you're saying. That you have to want it. For you, when I tell people that have that I'm like, hey man, what are your advices on like quitting this or quitting smoking or quitting drinking or whatever? It's like, one, you can't lie to yourself. You are the one person you have to be completely honest with. You can lie to everybody else about it, but you have to be honest with yourself. You can't just be like, yeah, no, I'm totally going to be off of this in like a week or 2 weeks. You have to be realistic. Be like, I really hope that I'll cut back, and then I get a hold of this. So you can't. You have to want it.
And that's one example also, like, that's the perfect place then to fill in with God instead of alcohol. That would be one example when you were saying, like, what if someone hasn't been in that dark of a place? All of us have something, man. All of us have strayed in some place away from what we know we could be. You dig?
Yeah.
We all have that instinct, like, when we know, like, all right, I could be better than this. There's a story in the Bible about a parable Jesus gave about the prodigal son. And they asked Jesus, what is the kingdom of heaven like? And he's like, there's this father, he has two sons. One of the sons stays with the father. The other son just wants his inheritance. And then he goes, and basically in today's world, he took his inheritance, went to Vegas. He just had sex with strippers and prostitutes and did coke, and got drunk, and then ends up homeless, eating from a pig trough.
Oh,
And
so
he's
it's like that
like,
guy
oh,
that dated Khloe Kardashian, that basketball player.
Which one?
Yes.
Oh,
It's a story about
Yeah, Lamar Odom, man.
Lamar
Yeah,
Odom, that's it.
LeBron James.
But the good news of it is, like I said earlier about the fall, he allows us. Go and experience it.
Yeah.
And see that it's not what you think. It's death. And when you're ready, you come back. And he's standing there with his arms open, with no condemnation, with love and grace and mercy and healing. And that's the beautiful recurring story through the whole Bible.
It's kind of like that Creed song with Arms Wide Open.
Oh, don't talk about Creed.
Come on now.
Come on, I'm sorry. I couldn't
Bring
help
up
it.
Creed.
It was right on the tee, man. I had to take it.
So okay, let's I'm late here. So you obviously you're newfound Christianity. You're doing your music. Did you decide you just didn't want to do music at all anymore for a while before you?
I did, yeah, I did. When I went to see some Christian rap, and it was horrible, man. Like, it was my first experience with it. Just the thought of Christian rap just like made the hair stand up on my arms, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think those are called douche chills.
Two shills.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there might be. And so I went to this concert. There was 7 people performing. I was like, no way, I'm not doing this. This is so corny, And I prayed, and I was like, Lord, just I'll just get a job or something.
Just deliver me the bars.
Yeah, like I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I thought it was corny. But then as I walked with God, as I grew in my, you know, like I said, it's a event, and it's a why? What was the word? I'm losing the word right now. It is a process. And as you grow, as you become more and more, you know, you're not perfect. Like, man. And actually, the more you grow, the more you realize how imperfect you are and all your faults. You know, it's like before you're kind of oblivious to it. Like, man, I'm a good dude. What's the problem? Like, the more you really have intellectual integrity and honesty, and you grow and you walk with Christ, the more you see how much you don't know and how much healing you need. You know. But anyway, so when I started walking, I started being able to write again. And stuff that I didn't think was corny. Hopefully it's not, you know. And I've released, I don't even know how many albums, right? I think 3 Christian albums with a bunch of singles. I have all these singles. I have one right now called Thrive. Some of the stuff is overtly Christian. Some of it is not. Some of it is kind of more poetic and hidden in there. And as I'm growing as an artist, I'm learning how to do that. You know, being confident now in my walk, confident who I am. In my new identity, you know, there's a saying where to be a great Christian shoemaker, you don't got to put crosses on every shoe you make.
Right.
You just got to make amazing shoes.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm learning that as an artist. I'm still growing and figuring out how do I explain certain metaphysical concepts, certain spiritual concepts. How do I do these things without being obvious? Although sometimes I want to be obvious. Sometimes I want to just do it very boldly and declare certain things. But then there's other times where it's more, you know, done with metaphors and pictures instead of just, you know, point blank shoot you in the forehead with it.
Right. So how was like this transition, like when you came back out and started making, you know, Christian more oriented music? Like, I mean, it's kind of an obvious, you know, like you would think that you would know the answer, but like, how was it? How did your fans receive it? Like, what kind of feedback and criticism were you getting? Criticisms, like, what was your interaction with your fan base? Like, when you came back out and started releasing Christian stuff?
Well, it's weird because I think for the most part, people how would I say this? These Christians like on movies and, you know, let's say on Facebook or somewhere. But when someone knows that you're genuinely trying to do that, they tend not to kind of like try to diss you and stuff. So I'll give you an example. The first concert that I did in the church, even the first music I started doing, I wasn't even sure if it was Christian because it was still heavy and it was still bold and it was still hard. But the content of the lyrics changed. And the first concert that I had, some of my kids came that were still on the block. You know, they came blown out, bro. They were high as hell.
Yeah.
I get done with the show and I went and I shook up with them. I'm like, dang, man, you in the church. And my guy said, man, I'll back you up even if you worship the unicorn, bro. Like, I love you. You know?
That's what's up.
I'm like that. And that's love, you know, that's true. And so there was a respect there. And I remember one conversation with somebody and there was a tension because he was like, oh, you think you a church boy now? Like, all of a sudden, like, that's what's up. Like, you different. And look, if I were to go back and make music about what I made music about, if I were to live that lifestyle again, I would be a fraud, bro. It would be fake because that is different.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in it anymore.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna now try to come and do that again, I would prefer it. So I'm not gonna do it. You know?
Yeah.
And so I would generally, especially once people talk to me or listen to a couple songs, there's kind of like, at least my experience has been, there's a level of respect. So if it's not your thing, at least you can see I'm doing this genuinely.
Right.
I believe it. I'm doing it for reasons to encourage and bless and strengthen other people. If you can't deal with that, that's cool. You ain't got to listen to it. You know?
I think
but generally, there's at least a a good respect for it.
And you know, that's as fans. I mean, that's what we want out of our artists. You know, is that we wanted the music to be genuine and like, you know, be from the heart, or you know, whatever they want it. We want it passionate. You know, we want you to, you know, really be behind your music. I mean, not necessarily if like, oh, I'm going out and I'm chopping up 72 hookers in my basement, or you know. You don't have to be going out and chopping up 72 hookers in your basement.
That's
but,
a big basement.
But you know, you can be like, hey, you know, like you said, if you were to go back to that dark rap and all that stuff, you know, it wouldn't be genuine, and it would definitely show in the music. It would your fans would definitely be able to hear, not just you know, in particular, but like just other artists. You know,
for sure, people know when it's fake.
You can
bro.
definitely tell.
Like when you're not really about that life, for the most part, people can tell.
That's why I think you're getting the respect that you were saying, is because you are being genuine. It's like,
and he still sounds like the Marz we all knew and know and love.
Yeah,
it's just the content is different, but it still sounds just like him.
Yeah,
and that's the hope, you know. And to be able to continue to hone the craft, and to be able to write songs, and to be able to write stuff that will bless you, you know. The purpose changed. So the purpose before was for me to be an amazing rapper, to get the record deals, to get the girls, to get the house, to get everybody to worship me. Yeah. And so you know how amazing I am. So it's all about me, right?
Right.
Now the focus is the exact opposite. The focus is like, okay, now how can I write this song so if you listen to it and if you're rapping it back, it's empowering you, it's strengthening you, it's lifting you up, it's blessing you. You know, or if your kids are listening to the song, what is it doing to their little brain?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is it turning them into a man? You know, it's one of those things more like this. Like, I don't know if you guys got kids. I got sons now, and there's certain people I would not allow to speak into my kids' lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And music is like that. I mean, music bypasses our consciousness, goes right into our subconsciousness.
Yeah.
And we really don't know how deeply it affects us. But I believe it does deeply affect us.
Yeah.
You know? And so I would love it. I got somebody, bro. Right now, he's still on the block. He's still doing his thing. He's driving his Mercedes, but he's got a son. And so he'll text me and be like, I'm in the whip right now playing this CD. That's the only thing I can play with my kid in the car.
Yeah.
I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take it, bro.
Now, was there a point before you released the Revelation album where you didn't want to be known as Marz anymore, and like we're gonna go under like an alias or something like that?
Yes, there was. I was trying to get rid of that name because I got it in a very weird, demonic way. So, you know, and I tried, man. Like I on it. I tried. I took a name called John Brown, who is actually a slavery abolitionist, I believe it's pronounced.
Yeah.
And he was a Christian, and he did some intense battling and warring, you know. But it just didn't stick. And I just figured out I'm gonna just stay with my name and let the spirit behind it just be different.
Just embrace it, and that's what's up. So you just for everybody that wants to hear the new Marz or hasn't yet, you just released recently the new Thrive album.
Yes, sir. You could.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can listen to the whole thing at marzofficial.com. Purchase it there if you know. That was another thing, like doing music now. Do I only let you listen to, 30 seconds and then get you to buy the album? Or do I just trust to let you listen to the whole thing, and then if it blesses you, you buy it? So I decided you can listen to the whole thing.
That's what's up. So you can listen to the entire album for free at marzofficial.com. That's MARZ official.com.
Yes, sir.
So with the newfound music, obviously you have a little bit different of a fan base with the Dark Lotus years and the ministry years. Can can we expect to see like Marz out on the road, like kind of preaching the gospel to the juggalos, or you know what I mean? Like, is there? Do you have like, ambitions
that,
of something like that?
I would not doubt that at all. I'm actually about to start working on a new album called Naked that I plan to release hopefully in the spring, which is gonna be buck. Like, because I feel like I've finally found my voice. Nice. And I finally found where I could be naked. Because we're all fronting, right? Let's be real. We're all fronting at some level. Every rapper is fronting. Every person is fronting. We're all wearing some type of mask.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think the most empowering thing is like if you could be booty naked and be like, this is exactly who I am. I'm straight with it. I love being inside my own skin. Now let's move forward.
But you got to keep the socks on.
That's right. You Red Hot Chili Pepper.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what's up.
There was another old school dark wicked shit rapper that went full Christian rap. What are your thoughts on Killa C, or do you know about Killa C?
I've met Killa C actually a couple times on the road. I haven't heard his new music. God bless the brother. I feel him for why he did it. Because once you see certain things, you want to show it to other people. So
right.
God bless him, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he put out a full Christian album under his actual name, Cole Hill.
And then he came back as Killa C.
Well, it was Killa C
People
presents
knew him,
Cole Hill.
Yeah.
But it's him,
Some
and it's
people
full
know.
on, it's all the way Christian.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
but-
and one of the things about this walk, bro, it's a personal walk. One of the stories when Jesus comes back and he gives you a name, he gives you a rock with a name written on it, right? That only you know and only he knows. And there's that type of symbolism is that in that, but one of them is that this is personal. It is a personal relationship. So it's going to be a little bit different for all of us.
Absolutely.
It's intimate. So for someone like him or for some other rappers, they'll get mad. Like, if you're not saying Jesus and the cross and scripture in every single song, they get mad about it. Like, no, you only mentioned Jesus 15 times in that song. You should have mentioned him 32 times.
Yeah.
And that's their walk.
Now, I know that I'm not trying to rope you into anything here, but I, as far as like when you knew Violent J back in the day, you guys were both pretty angry, both in dark places and all that stuff, and that you went your separate ways. But now it seems like, well, you've obviously found God and salvation and all that stuff, and it's seeming like in ICP's music that he's kind of
feeling that area out as well.
Like the almost like Christian rap on some of their songs. I mean, they still have the darker lyrics, but with a shiny light on it. What would your thoughts be if you if you had a conversation with Violent J today, it being both like kind of found the light is what it seems. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say, hey Jay, let's do a White Lotus album.
Oh shit!
Damn, or you and Killa C could do the White Lotus.
We're bringing a White Lotus
album.
And Light can be on it. There you go,
like
Light.
We grow man. Let's move on. Let's do something good. Let's do something positive. Bless these people. Jay's got so many juggalos listening to him, and it's like,
Always. Yeah.
Where do you lead them?
Right.
What is the best thing you can do in life right now to lead them to where? Because they're all listening.
Absolutely.
And
I would bless him and try to strengthen him and encourage him in any way possible to be a light for all those people that are looking at him.
He needs it. I believe you need to call him and try to get some fucking structure back in his life.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Is that like
you need to call him? He's having trouble.
Hold on. He seems like he's definitely misguided. He's
off course.
He's found the light, but he's like fucking running astray.
Yeah, he's off course.
You definitely need to hit him up and be like, "Hey, let's sit down and talk about this, man. We need to give you some structure and guidance."
Oh boy.
Man, I hope it happens, bro, because I would love to talk to him. And again, not in the way of like, oh, he needs to talk to me or something. But I just
right.
love to talk to him and just squash anything.
That would be great.
Just on a personal level,
Yeah,
not
on some
even
personal
not
shit.
even not even making track type shit. You know, just like hey,
Unless
on a
that's
personal.
the
I mean, that might happen.
the
but,
road that it goes, right?
You know, but
Absolutely, bro.
That's what's
I'm
up,
down.
man.
So, James, let's do it.
right.
There you go.
Get it popping.
You heard that right there, Joe. What's
Yeah,
it up?
come on, Joe.
That's what's up. Oh,
Oh,
God.
don't drop the phone.
Dropping stuff.
Oh shit.
Well, that's what's up, man. I got one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
We asked all of our guests here, and it's we stole it from Roscoe, a mutual homie of ours from Fago Lovers, who actually set up this kind of interview. But we do it for everybody. We steal this question. If you're stranded on an island, you can only bring 3 records with you. What 3 records would they be?
Wow.
Ah,
Only 3 records.
This is where
I
we've already
agree.
kind of dug into your soul, but it's normally where we dig into people's souls.
Yeah.
There's a Christian rock band called I don't know if you've ever heard of
Call
it.
what? You cut out.
Hillsong.
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 I've heard of
I
that.
don't remember at the moment what it's called, but it's off the chain. It's like Led Zeppelin with a twist or something, you know. So as far as rock music, I would bring that. I get 2 more, huh? Man, I have no idea, bro.
oh come
I
on.
listen to my stuff one time, so I'll bring the Thrive album because it encourages me. So if I need to go and, I'm on this island, I need to go catch a bear or something.
Nice. You're gonna Chuck Norris a bear.
Is there bears on the island?
And there
It
could be.
depends
You
on
never
what
know.
island. It depends on the island.
If there is, you're prepared.
That's right.
Go.
So I would bring that, and then I'd probably bring some like maybe Jimi Hendrix album or something. Something from the 60s, some old rock.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Is he the first one to say his own album on that question of ours? Or has somebody else ever said their own
I'm not
album?
sure.
I think he might be the
I
first.
don't know.
I listen to my own music, man. And you know what's great? My little boys, they're my number 1 fans, bro. So I think I got another 5 years until they start thinking that I'm lame.
Ah, nice.
So
that's
I'm
good.
gonna
Gotta ride that.
Yeah,
Ride
get,
that
it, get it
wave.
while you can.
Yeah, get it while you
absolutely.
can.
That's right.
And then he's got to start making whatever the new wave music that all the kids are making then. And yeah.
Well, that's
My
what's up,
kids are
man.
starting to write, man. They're 2 years old. They got a song called One Banana, Two Banana, Me Banana, You Banana. They got a song about their eyebrows.
That's
They got a
dope.
song about their eyebrows.
Everyone, I think, should have a song about their eyebrows.
Apparently, I have some nice eyebrows.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
but yeah, man, we
dope.
definitely appreciate you calling in and sharing your story with us. We'd love to have you come back and
I thought it was a
chat
great
it up with
interview.
us again. Welcome to the Replicon family.
Chicago's not far from us. We're in St. Louis.
Yeah, you're always welcome
Let
here.
me know, my brother.
And
It was a pleasure. Great to meet y'all. Thank you for taking the time, and let's do it again.
absolutely, for sure. We're going to play some of that new Thrive music, and everybody likes it. You can check it out at marzofficial.com. You can hear it for free. You can buy it. Hopefully, we'll get Marz on the road soon. If that happens, let us know. I'd love to see Marz and NF on the road. That would be the
Fuck yeah, that
coolest
was
thing in the world.
I would love to see that too, man.
That's where it's at. But yeah, we appreciate it, man. Any words you want to send to the Marz fans listening, or the Juggalos, the Dark Lotus fans that may not, be too into what you're doing now, or maybe they are, or just any last words or anything you want to say to anybody before we let you go?
Yeah, there's 2 paths. One leads to life, one leads to death. Choose life. You'd never regret it.
There you have it, man. Hey, man, we appreciate you. We're gonna
I
bump some of that
appreciate y'all,
music.
man.